Ah,
There we go.
Hey, how are you?
hey, Daniel.
How you going, Dan?
Okay, how you doing?
Yeah, really good. How are you?
Good, good. Is the sound okay? Let's see the video okay. Here we go.
There we go.
Perfect. How you doing?
All right. Good, good. Nice warm day here in the Baja. Quiet, still.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I know last time I was chatting to you, you were doing your retreat up still. Is that what you're doing still?
Right. No, it was in February.
Oh, right.
We had we had 18 people for 21 days. It was pretty good adventure for people, kind of nice.
Yeah.
And since then we've been enjoying the quiet and the unplanned pause,
Yep.
So it's good. Our gardens are prolific, and we're getting fruit from the orchard. Good clean water out of the well. Life is good.
That's awesome. Really good.
Yeah.
This is my partner, Michaela, by the way.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
So you didn't have
Hi,
a
Michaela.
chance.
Nice to meet you. I've heard all about you.
Yeah. All right. Hi.
Just a quick question before we get going, Dan. We were going to stream this call live in our Facebook group, but we're having some technical issues. But do you mind if some people jump on and we just keep them muted so they can sort of watch in at the same time?
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Sorry, it's been a bit slow getting started. We tested it all yesterday and it all worked perfect. And then
Good. Yeah. Yeah. I did one recently where they were live streaming on YouTube at the same time.
Oh,
It
yeah.
seemed to work out pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that with Zoom. I got to look into it myself. I know the basics of Zoom. That's about it.
Yeah. I saw Angie and Shane do it a few days ago, so I was like, oh, it's a cool little feature.
Yeah. Yeah. They're staying busy.
Yeah.
Good.
You still do have a lot to do with those guys still?
Yeah. We just did a little push on our O2 Fundamentals course. In fact, I think it expired 2 more days for the special offer.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I've been doing good. And we're all staying busy, I think, in spite of this stuff.
Yeah.
Once you have momentum, it's kind of hard to bring things to a halt. But life forces us in some ways, so go with the flow.
Yeah. That's so true. Yeah, I think
just mute everyone as they come.
Yeah, I think like this sort of whatever we're in at the moment, whatever we're facing, it's like really forced the internal awareness, like shifting that awareness back in. At least for me anyway. Like we've been spending a lot of time at home, and it's been nice reconnecting and revisiting old passions and connecting back with like we brought our ice bath back home from our gym, and we've got the ice bath out the back. So we've been like getting up, training, breathing, ice bath, doing some content online. So it's just been a cool time for us. So
great. Yeah, well, this is good opportunity. People are always complaining they don't have time to this, don't have time to do that. Now people got a lot of time. You can start using it wisely.
Yeah. So true.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
All right. So what's our plan today?
Yeah. So I was just gonna have a little chat about I guess before we started, like a little bit about like your journey and what sort of led you to breathwork, and what drew you to breathwork, and how it sort of led to where you're currently at now in life. So.
Yeah, well, every job I've ever had, was related to breathing in some way. And, a passion since childhood, really. I was the kid in the first grade organizing breath holding competitions in the schoolyard, So, and my first job as an X-ray technician, you tell people to take in a deep breath, hold it, and then click, you take their picture. And as I watched people follow those simple instructions, what muscles they use, the expression on their face, what they thought or felt was a full breath, what they went through to accomplish it. And I just started noticing how unique everyone's relationship was to the breath. And kind of the breath just started speaking to me. And so out of X-ray school, I went into the military as a medical person and then deep sea diver. So I was doing, again, practicing breath holding, underwater rescue, mixing gases for deep sea diving, working a recompression chamber. And and then out of that, training CPR instructors, and then my pull towards the east, towards India and China, because you couldn't find any Western schools of breath. All of the schools of breath were ancient and Eastern. So I started gravitating towards India and spent time in China, try to Westernize the Eastern approach, maybe pull away a lot of the ritual or dogma or, unnecessary stuff and just get to the essence of the techniques. And then, if somebody knew anything about breathing, I was either kissing their feet or breathing down their neck until I could get what I could get, and then went on to the next flower, like a bee gathering pollen, and until I become what Tony calls the Bruce Lee of breathing. You take from this and take from that, and you create yourself, and you put it together into a unique model for self-improvement, for growth, for healing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my breathing is my passion. Pass I on, and it's also
cool.
it's my profession. Profess I on. So I'm a missionary for the breath, and I don't know what else to do. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love that.
I think keep going with it.
So cool.
And I think that's like one thing I really love about I guess the practitioner course I done with you like a few years ago was it was so intuitive. Like you brought so many different elements to it, but like I think one big message that I got from you throughout that whole practitioner program was like experiment. Like the breath is such a personal and such an exploratory thing. So you can really, draw upon those other elements of it and just really tune into your body and do what you feel in those given moments. So I think that was like what I really got drawn to you about was that deeply intuitive, spiritual essence of the breath.
Yeah, well, that, our human spirit, our consciousness is kind of the wild card in life. It's a trump card. I mean, consciousness can trump chemistry if you come at it in the right way. And so, yeah, I do. I encourage people to explore and experiment and try this and try that and be your own scientist, but in general, there are fundamentals. You got a belly button, I got a belly button. Certain things are going to be universal when it comes to breathing. And so we try to teach those fundamentals and then allow people to put them together and play with them in their own way to intuitively navigate their way forward.
Yeah.
So, when we train, we like to train in two directions. We train in the direction of comfort, in the direction of pleasure. I mean, if you hear or read about or try a breathing technique or exercise that you particularly like, for some reason you really enjoy it, then that's nature prompting you. Let's, see how far you can go with that. How can you embellish it? How can you tweak it? How can you apply it? When can you use it? And enjoy it and spend time really meditating on the aspects of it. So you train in the direction of comfort, but you also train in the direction of challenge. Where is the cutting edge of your growth? Do you have trouble taking a very long inhale? Or is it a challenge for you to lengthen your exhale? Or are you uncomfortable with a long pause after the exhale? And so if you're watching and you're conscious and you're aware and you're practicing, you're going to begin to find your weak spots, places where you got room for development, wherever you're feeling challenge or resistance. Nature's pointing you towards a a movement, an opportunity for growth.
Mm.
So we train in the direction of comfort and pleasure. We train in the direction of resistance and challenge. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes you just gotta like push yourself, go through a temporary period of discomfort. When people start practicing certain breathing techniques that are challenging, it's really easy to just stop and go, oh no, that I don't feel good. That's no good for me. But whoa, wait. Maybe there's something in the way. Maybe there's something emotional. Maybe there's something psychological. Maybe there's some behavior, there's some habit that the breath is putting you up against. The problem isn't the breathing. The problem is maybe your mindset, maybe your physical tension, your posture. Maybe it's some psychological suppressed emotional issue. And that's what's causing the resistance to the breathing or the challenge with certain breathing techniques. So, hey, you know, breathing is a Swiss Army knife of life. It's the tool of our day. If you are at all interested in human potential or personal growth, then the breath is like one of your best helpers, guides, tools, and forces along the way.
Mm. Yeah, it's so true. Hey, like I always say, it's like the first form of nutrition. I say, like,
Yeah.
it's a good way to put it. But like, as you know, for the average person, you can't go longer than a few minutes untrained without the breath. But yeah, 100%. Like, you're so deeply connected through the mind, the body, and the way that you manipulate the breath to shift energy within the body, shifting states. Yeah, it's powerful stuff.
Yeah, well, if you want to shift your state, then shift your breathing pattern.
Yeah.
If you want to change your psychological state, your emotional state, your physiological state, just change your breathing pattern and your state will come change right on the heels of that, guaranteed.
Yeah.
So, and change is one of those constant factors I've observed over the years in breath work. If you are about to go through a change, if you're trying to manage a change, or if you're recovering from a change, the breath is so perfect to help in navigating change and dealing with change.
Yeah.
And a big part of the practice is deliberately changing your breathing habits and patterns, changing your typical normal breathing reactions and habits. And when you can make a change in something as primal and fundamental as breathing, making a change on other levels is a lot easier. And the extra energy you get and the extra felt sense of, being in your body, breathing awakens body intelligence. And when you're making decisions and you're only relying on your head, you're at a great disadvantage. But when you breathe, you awaken body intelligence, you awaken heart intelligence, and so you can make better decisions. So, it's everybody moves at their own pace. What we teach a frail elderly woman who's in bed is going to be different than what we would practice with a peak athlete, but the fundamentals, however, are universal. And then people can apply them to whatever, based on their level of health, their degree of skill, or their purpose in training. And then you can pick and choose where to start, what to focus on, what to practice, and then which direction to go. So breath work is so empowering. And we can use it as a gauge, as a, how much stress are you under? Are you in the zone? Are you in the flow? Your breath expresses and reflects whatever state that you're in. And so when your state changes, your breathing changes. When your breathing changes, your state changes. That means we have a handle on something really powerful, our consciousness and our energy. When we're breathing, we're actually manipulating, managing, directing our consciousness and our energy. And that's creativity. That's creation. That's creativity is the connecting of consciousness and energy, and something is created. So when you're breathing, you're living in that creative state, and your intuition is good. Your immune system is pumped and charged. Your nervous system is balanced. Your emotional state, is being managed. And so if you're a peak performer or you're interested in just being a better human, that intention and then using the breath, bada bing,
Yeah.
Yes.
it works.
So I guess like you started to touch on a little bit there. Like for people listening, are you able to explain like a little bit about how the breath can influence the immune system so much? Because I guess like the time that we're in now, like I know like ourselves, a few other people are really like promoting breath work and promoting like tuning into different forms or different styles of breath work to supercharge the immune system. Like
Yeah.
are you able to, I guess, dive in a little bit about that for people listening?
Yeah, I was just this morning, speaking of time, I was doing some reading and I went back and revisited a book, Hendler, I forget his name, but The Oxygen Breakthrough. He wrote it in 1990. And the connection between how we breathe and our immune system is the connection between, how we affect our chemistry depending on our unconscious or conscious breathing habits, right? So carbon dioxide, for example, is a volatile acid. Carbon dioxide is a vasodilator. And so when you breathe fast or you breathe slow or you breathe shallow or you breathe deep or you are affecting your CO2 level. And when you affect your CO2 level, that in turn causes this ripple effect throughout your chemistry. Your pH balance is affected. How constricted your microvessels in your brain, in your lungs, in your intestine, all the smooth muscles of the body around the arteries, bronchial vessels, all those microvessels, they are contracted and expanded, not like we flex a muscle, but through that gas of carbon dioxide being a high level or low level, either dilates or constricts microvessels. So that means how much energy, oxygen, glucose are you delivering to the brain depends on whether those microvessels are dilated or clamped shut. And the link between the nervous system and the immune system is direct. And the link between breathing and the nervous system is direct. And so by playing with your breath and tweaking your breath, you're actually hacking into your immune system. You're hacking into your nervous system. And you can build up your nervous system, or your immune system, and you can balance your nervous system, charge it or discharge it, whatever is required. If you're lethargic and dull and quiet, you need to lean into the inhale, lean in that sympathetic direction. Start to use the breath to charge yourself, and you can see, wow, very quickly you're in a different state. If you're really hyper and starting to get and frenetic and then you lean in the direction of exhale. And you can sense your emotional psychological state changing, but in unison with that is the chemical and physiological and biological state, which you are directly beginning to direct and steer. So yeah, it's a no-brainer. If you want to control or affect or serve and support your immune system and your nervous system, then play with your breath in ways to do that. Most people or many people actually have unconscious breathing habits that are interfering and interrupting and actually causing and exacerbating a lot of dis-ease and illnesses and issues and stuff. Emotional, psychological tendencies and issues are linked to our unconscious habitual breathing patterns. Breathing is a behavior, and some behaviors will make you $1 million, other behaviors will get you in jail, and some behaviors will do both. And so breathing is a behavior, and we learn behaviors, model behaviors, we learn them unconsciously. We take on certain behaviors in moments of stress and emotion, and then they become habits. And then if those breathing habits, those breathing behaviors either wreak havoc in your system or they put you in the zone. And it's up to us to wake up and start to be conscious of how we breathe, and then start to do very deliberate, remedial breath training, breathing training.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah, hugely. So, what is your, I guess, like, how would you sum up what breathwork is to somebody listening that has never really experienced any form of breathwork before? Because, like, one thing that I've found funny is, like, you know, when I've introduced breathwork to people, they're like, "Oh, like I breathe every day." Like, what do you mean? But
Right.
there's so much more to it. So, like, how do
Yes.
you,
Well, yeah. I mean, just because, breathing happens by itself, and so we don't need to think about it.
yeah,
But that doesn't mean we shouldn't think about it. And just because, you're breathing along and everything is good, you can do it better. And so, yeah, people go, breathing, schmeathing, we're all breathing, what's to do? And actually, I had two early teachers from very opposite schools. I love when that happens. One of my teachers said, breathing is so damn important. Leave it alone. You're only going to screw it up. What do you know? Nature is breathing you. Don't get in the way. Let nature breathe you, okay? It's too important to be messing around with it. And my other teacher said, look, breathing is so important. You should be experimenting with it, exploring it, playing with it, see what you can do with it. So which of those two teachers do you listen to? I basically listen to both of them. And breathwork is the art and science of using breath awareness and conscious breathing as a tool, as a force, as a bridge for health and growth and change in body and mind and spirit. So if I back up a little bit, so breathwork it's an art and it's also a science. And there are two aspects of breathwork which reflect my two early teachers. One is breath awareness. You don't breathe in any certain way. You don't breathe in any special way. You simply practice pure breath awareness. You're the witness. You're the watcher. You're allowing your body to breathe itself, and you're observing how that happens. You're allowing the breath to breathe you, and you're surrendering and allowing that to occur. And you're the witness, you're the observer, you're the detached witness. And now you're following the natural flow of life in you. You're allowing yourself to be breathed. And so that's half of breath work, really important half of breath work. So you practice that in the morning, 5, 10, 20 minutes, whatever your lifestyle allows, where you just sit on the edge of your bed or in a chair, whatever, and just close your eyes, tune in, and observe your breathing. And allow the breath and listen to it and watch it and feel it. Where does it go? What muscles do you use? What moves? What are the sensations? What are the internal sounds? Is there a rhythm? Is there a pace? Are there pauses? And so you're just being, it has to be like a love affair. Breath work means that you're in a love affair with the spirit of life, which is a breath. And so you want to watch it and get to know it and become intimate with it as you would a lover, as you would your beloved, right? And that's before you start making it do tricks for you, right? So before you start trying to control it, manipulate it and direct it and tell it what to do and how you want it to be and all that, you don't do that on the first date.
Warm the oven up a little bit.
Then all that other foot comes out, right? So breath work, the approach to breath work is the same thing. You got to approach it like a first date. You don't start making your date do tricks for you and dance for you, and you don't start trying to control him or her. You just want to get to know them. What do they like? How do they feel? How do they move? What do they smell like? You want to touch them. Pretty soon you want to taste them, and pretty soon you've devoured them. But anyway, so that's the first half of breath work, just getting to know it, because there are details in the breathing that you've never observed. There are points in the breathing that you have never observed, and they're very powerful points. They're a doorway to a new reality, a new consciousness. They give access to inner abilities and inherent qualities and talents. So that's the first half of breath work, just becoming a witness of your own breath. And then you take that practice into your daily life. You're stuck in traffic. How are you breathing? Someone is insulting you. How are you breathing? You're enjoying music. How are you breathing? You're picking up a weight. How are you breathing? You know, you're having an orgasm. How are you breathing? Most people don't turn to their breath in those moments, and they miss a lot of valuable information. So we take this first aspect of breath work, breath awareness, breath watching, and we do it as a ritual. That's what breath workers do. In the morning is a practice, a meditative practice. You're developing meditative awareness. You're practicing mindfulness. You're sharpening your focus and concentration skills, your attention skills. So it's attention training. The second half of breath work is conscious breathing. So we have breath awareness, it's passive, no verb there. And then there's conscious breathing. And it's an action. We take over, we do the breathing, we control the breathing, we regulate the breathing. We give the breathing a certain pattern, we give the breathing a certain quality, a certain rhythm, a certain pace. We breathe with a certain intention. Now it's conscious breathing. So that's breath work. It's the combination, or it includes those two practices of breath awareness and conscious breathing. And so the same thing we did with breath awareness, you have certain conscious breathing exercises or techniques, rituals that you do every day. And then you have certain conscious breathing practices that you engage in depending on what's happening. What's the energy of the moment require? What situation are you in? What do you want to accomplish? What are you trying to heal? What are you trying to discover? What do you want to experience? How do you want to feel? And then you have a repertoire of breathing exercises and techniques. If someone like you, who is wise, you study this, you study that, you check. And so you're gathering your own kind of toolbox. And then you turn to those breathing exercises. If you want to clear your head, settle your stomach, calm your nerves, open your heart, energize yourself, sleep, deal with pain, vent tension, eliminate stress, manage anxiety. And we can do all this stuff. I mean, the synopsis of my book is that all of the high states and the extraordinary abilities that the great saints and masters and mystics and warriors and yogis had, those same states and high abilities, the average person can achieve those same high states and extraordinary abilities just through breathing. Because if it requires anything else, your breath will put you in touch with it. It's impossible to master your breath without mastering your mind, mastering your emotions, mastering your body, mastering your life. So you're hearing a lecture from the missionary of breath.
I love it. I love it. So good. So good.
I'm sure everyone listening is getting so much from it though. Yeah, it's just so resourceful. Like you said, just to finish off, all you need to do is just tune into your breath, and it'll do it for you. It's huge.
Yeah. Well, jumping ahead to kind of a recent last few years, kind of cutting edge practice. I mean, as I'm practicing and my students are practicing, and then I see them again a year, and then another year, and some of my students and some of my associates now, we're talking 20, 30 years of practice. So we catch up, we compare notes, and then their students are getting feedback on the practices. So, we have these masterminds around breath work. And one of the great recent kind of developments, still hard to talk about it, but most people are beginning to get it. And that is, so when we choose to breathe in a certain way, and the way that we consciously choose to breathe is exactly the way our body would have us breathe in that moment, we have just made a very practical, felt connection to our intuition. right? So if my body demands that I breathe one way, and because I read a book on yoga or I listened to a lecture from Dan, I'm trying to breathe in a certain way, and I'm not in touch with my own nature, my own spirit, the energy of the moment, what my system requires, then I'm artificially manipulating myself, which can come in, it can be useful, you know, in a fix or temporarily, you know, but that can't become a pattern or a habit. So one of the beautiful things that we've been playing with is the sigh of relief. So everyone knows what a sigh of relief is, but what they may not know is that you take a sigh about 12 times an hour. The average human, about every 5 minutes. And most people aren't catching that. You probably notice it from time to time that a big breath just comes to you. And you didn't make it happen and you didn't do it, but it was so double the size of normal. And so you noticed it and it felt really good. So that's what a sigh is. A sigh is an inhale that's twice as big as your tidal volume, twice as big as your average breath. And nature makes you do that about 12 times an hour. Nature makes you hyperinflate your alveoli about every 5 minutes or so that you don't lose respiratory capacity. Nature didn't trust us to be in charge of this. And so every few minutes, nature makes an inhale that's twice as big as normal happen. And that extra stretch is what produces the release and the relaxation and the relief that we identify as a sigh of relief. So you do that on purpose. I train people to just make yourself sigh on purpose. Take an inhale that's twice as big as normal. Anybody who's listening now, do that right now. Just take an inhale that's twice as big as your normal breath, very deliberately. It's almost like two breaths, one on top of the other. The first breath is a normal breath you take, but then instead of exhaling, you put another inhale on top of it. It's like a two-part inhale, something like this. And then let go. Two inhales, one on top of the other. And then exaggerate the sound, right? So then what you do is you play this game of doing it when you have a feeling to do it. And then one of those times, that feeling you had to do it was because your body was getting ready to do it itself. And then you do it right when your body wants it. And the experience is very unique. It's an effortless inhale that you are actually doing, but it has this effortlessness because there's a surge of breath underneath that's wanting to happen, and you are now in harmony with it. And the quality of that breath is the quality that you want to learn and identify and recognize. And then when you lose it, you find it. So then every single breath you consciously take is in harmony with how your body, mind, your nature would have you breathe in that moment. And so it becomes a direct link to intuition, to being in the flow, to being in a peak physiological, psychological state. So the more we meditate on our breath, the more sensitive we become to it. And then we allow that awareness and sensitivity to guide our conscious breathing practice. Now you don't need a teacher. The breath itself is your teacher. And then all you need is helpers and guides. And hey, maybe some people who are a couple of steps above the ladder than you can pull you up. You can push their ass up above and ahead of you. You can drag other people up from underneath. And we're all in this game. We're all learning. We're all growing. And we're staying ahead of the science.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the science right now is finally coming around. Oh, this is why these yogic or Taoist or martial art practices have been used for a couple of thousand years. Look at the biological, physiological, chemical effect they have. So now with wearables and technology, science and spirit can meet. And the place where science and technology meet, or spirit and technology, or spirit and time, is the breath. That is the meeting point today. The breath is the meeting point of technology and spirit. So hold on to your hat. Things are going to accelerate.
Hugely.
And everybody's teaching breathing all of a sudden. Well, not all of a sudden, but gradually. There's 1,000 breathing schools out there. Everybody's a breath worker. Thank God, because 40 years ago, it was like a voice in the desert, screaming from the rooftops. Hey, breathing is important. Try breathing. Breathing, schmeathing, get that guy out of here. And now, thank God,
Yes.
the world is waking up.
It's waking up.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
I know when Dan introduced me to breathing, when was that, about 2 years ago?
2 or 3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, I was a bit, like, I'm not skeptical, but I just couldn't seem to tune in or get my mind off it, and I would overthink it and do all that. And I realized the more that I practiced, the easier it was, obviously, for me to be able to be more attuned with my breath. But even just recently, just having one big sigh in, one big sigh out, like what you just said before, allows me to connect with my higher, my purpose, myself, my intuition, all of those valuable things that are important in my life. And it kind of disconnects you from your reality to your higher purpose, and it allows you to make better decisions, have better belief patterns, better values, all of those sorts of things. And it really, I thought that was pretty valuable to learn, that big sigh, connect, feel, listen, and then act on that higher self, that intuition. Powerful.
Beautiful. Yeah, you went through the list of benefits of breath work, and anybody who practices, you get unarguable felt results, which whether anybody else can prove it works or not, who cares? It works for you. But if it works for you, it probably works for someone else. And if it works for a few people, there must be something to it.
Yeah.
So we're all students. And, on one level, we're all learning, we're all practicing, we're all looking for what's the next highest possibility. And so I'm happy to hear. I'm glad you got bit by the breathing bug. I hope breathwork spreads faster than the coronavirus.
It definitely is.
Yeah, I think I actually, I got sent a article. I'll have to send it through to you. There was a guy over in the UK who said he cured himself of the coronavirus per se through breathwork. So,
yeah. Hey, we recently had an online conference. We're calling it the Breath Lab. We did the first episode. It's on YouTube out there somewhere now, called Breath Lab, episode 1. And it was there's a lot of stuff about, how can you breathe to help with the virus, right? And there's a lot of misinformation being put out there, a lot of hype. So we brought together some serious people, Dr. Peter Litchfield, who is my go-to guy in the world for respiratory science and chemistry and physiology of breathing. And we brought in a few other folks, and we had kind of an online panel conversation about how, what's the link. And so it's out there on YouTube. People can find it. And I think we have a website now called Breath Lab. It's just a recently launched thing. We're going to be adding more and more to it. Breathing, it's not unusual. People can play with their breath because you're playing with more than your breath. You're playing with your willpower. You're playing with your spirit. You're playing with your chemistry. You're playing with your limbic system, with your, lymph glands, and all kinds of things are being activated, with various breathing exercises. So it shouldn't surprise anybody that you can improve something, prevent something, speed the recovery of something using breath work. Yeah. It's guaranteed. And the only question is to what degree. Some people can produce remarkable, exceptional benefits, and some people produce only minimal benefits, and then you have everybody in between. So it's a skill, and like any skill, the more you practice it, the better coaching you get, and the better you perform. So it's up to each of us to be good students and good teachers of the breath and for ourselves.
Yeah, hugely. And it's definitely like the go-to thing I know for me in my life to create that ease back in the body. Like because I guess like all lifestyle-based illnesses are all caused or all can stem from some form of stress, some form of dis-ease in the body, and like the unconscious mind is so good at holding on to repressed, stored emotions, and like I found it so powerful. I found it so powerful at the practitioner course, how you could use breath work to not only shift, like create ease in the body, but then also shift and release that stored memory of information within the body. Like,
Yeah, breathing is like a rotor-rooter for the subconscious mind, you know, and learning to use the breath to drop into that place of ease. So it's a nice way to describe it, a place of stillness, of quietness, of peace, of clarity. It's a real place we all have at our source, at our center. And most people are just floundering around on the surface and they're not in touch with that still center. And one of the very first things you can begin to do is to use the breath to be able to access that place, to be able to drop into it. And so we're back to the sigh of relief again. How a simple sigh of relief can be the trigger that triggers the relaxation, triggers the release, triggers the dropping down into our center, and triggers that movement in the direction of stillness and peace. The exhale, the breath, can take us to that place. And from that place, we tap a certain energy, a certain pure life force, a spirit in us, and we make better decisions where we're connecting ourselves to our source. So we're getting support from higher intelligence, our higher self, if you want to call it, our nature, our essence, whatever you want to call it. And so that's a great practice. And it's very early on, the earlier the better, because the earlier and the sooner you get good at, okay, letting go of stress, letting go of confusion, letting go of the disruption, the upset, the better you go at using the breath to unhook from that and drop down, the sooner everything